I partially fixed it.
Say what?
I partially fixed the problem.
Recording things on my computer could you guys don't even want to see my computer. Yeah, I mean there are literally three computers and six screens going in here right now. But anyway, let's see, who are we doing? We're Chris, you here?
Yep, I'm here.
Okie dokie. I don't think I set up my swale correctly because it looks like the slope uphill slightly towards the top of the page instead of going perpendicular to the contours. No, I think your swale is not far off at all. You're going to have one side of the swale coming down here, and the other side of the swale probably coming down there. I'm not sure that you need to go out that far. You certainly can. I don't see a problem with what you've got there.
Okay.
Would it be easier to readjust the FFE of the house to make the contours of the swale make more sense so that they don't have to cross the driveway? Well, they're going to have to cross the driveway one way or the other. There's no way to avoid that. But I think you saw from the one that we just did that adjusting the FFE of the house is very helpful for making sure that you've got, a certain amount of pane on this side and a certain amount of pane on that side.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not going to eliminate contours going across the driveway. You're going to have a lot of contours going across the driveway. When determining the spot elevation where the driveway meets the street, is there any specifics that we need to know, or do I just look at it and say what I think is best for the overall elevation? That's a great question. So to begin with, what I do when I'm doing a concept, I just look at and see what's best for the overall elevation. You, however, have to go and calculate the elevation here, and the elevation here eventually. And we've already had a little bit of this conversation about this. What I might do is I might start just right smack in the middle, and then I can do some quick calculations. And again, we're trying to remind everybody that because we eliminated the curve, this contour is actually going to come off there in some way, shape, or form. I'm not saying it's going to go at that angle, it might go at this angle, it might go that angle, depending on what you design.
Mm-hmm.
So that doesn't exactly answer your question, but I think we covered a lot of that. Let me go over here. On the driveway, should we make the crown or make a slightly higher on the uphill side for the water runoff? The answer is yes, the second one. Make one side slightly steeper so that the water runs off.
Okay.
You are more than likely going to wind up with some sort of a fan pattern down that driveway. How do I connect the 130 swale contour back to the pre-existing 130 contour on the other side of the driveway? Let's see. The 130, okay, well, we actually knew that already. So that 130 is going to connect across the driveway just like that in some way, shape, or form. And then the question is, where does it go? Does it come out like this and then come up and make part of a swale as it would in the way you've designed it? Or if we move the swale so it just stops there, then the question is, does the 130 simply, go around a little bit and reconnect? And that's up to you. Either one will work just fine. I'm going to add, please don't forget to put a graphic scale in there. I know we're early in the process, and that is okay.
Mm-hmm. And then for the 130 on the side of the swale towards the bottom of the page, does that just connect down at the base of the driveway then?
Down here?
Yeah.
Yeah, that 130 has to connect where the 130, this will go right into there. So that point right there is where the 130 will connect. Okay. This elevation is wrong. It's going to be lower than that. And you're going to calculate that elevation based upon the fact that if you had changed the line weight, you'll know that elevation right there. And of course, you'll know this elevation right here. And with that, you can determine these elevations as well.
Okay.
Because you'll know what the slope is here. You'll take the distance, do the math, and that'll get it done.
Okay.
Other questions?
Not that I can think of right now.
Okay,
Thank you.
my pleasure. Thomas, you here?
Yep, I'm here.
All righty, let's go through this. We'll start at the upper left. Is the text too small for the PDF? No, text is fine. However, you already know that these guys go outside the building, right? These guys being these spot elevations, both the text and the spot go outside the building. The bigger issue that we have here is your high point of swale is really in the wrong location. You want to have a swale that's running this way, which means we need to take your HPS and move that over to this location here. And you've seen a few examples of that, so I think you already understand that. Do I need to do anything to the road? Nope. How many times do I break the slope driveway? As many as you want. I think 2 would be more than enough, but you can do it as many times as you want. Can my swale flow one direction instead of 2? Not really. We will deal with some examples next semester where that might be true, but most swales will flow 2 directions. Should I put contour numbers on the deck? You should not put contour numbers nor spot elevations on the deck. You can basically ignore it. What is the best way to fix the percent slopes so they fall within the 0 to 10 range? You got 3 ways to do that. And if you look at the recorded elevation, the recorded lecture number 2, it gives you a whole bunch of those, but there are a couple of ways to adjust that. Number 1, you can change the location of the high point. Number 2, you can change the location of the low point. Number 3, you can shorten or lengthen the swale. Number 4, you can change the elevation of the high point. Number 5, wherever we are, if you change the location of the low point, that would also change the elevation. You could actually make the swale longer some cases and sometimes shorter. So for example, if I want to make this swale longer, I could actually go out like that. Now, I don't think that's a good idea in this case. I'm just giving you an example. So take a look at the lecture 2 and you will see a bunch of different ways to make those adjustments. Is there anything else you need in the legend? Yeah, everything that's on the plan must be in the legend. So trees are the first thing that have to go in there. The rest of it looks pretty. Road, drive, sidewalk probably needs to be in there. Basically anything that's on the drawing. That would include spot elevations and contour elevations. I'm not really sure, by the way, what these lines are going across here, but my guess is that they're not needed. And if you're trying to do stairs, we're not ready to do that yet. The elevation for the house should be listed as an FFE. So that would be a finished floor elevation instead of an EL. The garage, of course, will also need a FFE, and the porch could either have an FFE or it could have spot elevations. I think the main thing is that we need to look at redesigning that swale so it goes 2 directions. Do I see any other questions? No. What else? What else can I answer for you?
For the porch, how does FFE differ from spot elevations?
So you've got a choice. You can do either one. You can do spot elevations, and in that case, they'd be in the corner of the porch here and here. And likewise, this number needs to go outside and the spot needs to go down on the ground. You could do it that way, and then you do it with a 1% slope because it is a concrete porch, or you can simply set an FFE. You can simply say porch FFE, and it might be that you have the text for the building FFE up here, and then the text for the porch FFE down here with a leader line that goes out. Either way is fine with me. You may set it with a FFE, or you may set it with spot elevations. The porch, of course, can be 6 inches below the house if you wish. It doesn't have to be. The garage may also be 6 inches below the house as you have it, and it doesn't have to be. You can even put a 6-inch step right there if you wish. You don't have to. It all comes down to whether or not you want to have the structure be ADA accessible. So you could also see that having everything at the same elevation allows me to simply roll right in or out. Those are choices that you get to make at this point, and I wouldn't worry about them a whole lot. I would just make them and move on, because again, if you make the whole house ADA accessible, I'll be very proud of you, and it won't affect your grade at all. So I'm not trying to discourage you. I'm just trying to let you know that you won't get any extra credit for it. Yeah, so everyone's got a slightly different base map. So this contour will be coming off of here and going that direction. And then, of course, it's going to have to go around that way. I just want you to note that that's where that contour is going to start to get across the driveway. Are the swales too wide? No, they're not too wide. They probably need to be, the whole swale system needs to be shifted up to here, and then have one slope on this side and a different slope more than likely on that side. Other questions?
For the driveway, will mine still fan out
Yes.
like with the contours? Okay.
Yes, because everyone will have a different elevation at those two corners, which means this side is going to be steeper, which means they're going to be closer together on this side than this side, which they're going to be further apart. So yes, it will fan out. Everyone's will.
Does that mean that the driveway is slightly slanted, so when you drive the car up, it'll lean slightly to the right-hand side?
Correct. The driveway is slightly slanted, especially down at the bottom of the driveway, because you're connecting to a road that has a slope running this direction. So yes, the driveway, you could call it slanted. You could also call it twisted, because it's going to be level up here at the top, but it's not going to be level at the bottom.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep, that makes sense. And then for the legend, when I made the legend, the existing contours, they did not show up as dashed lines. Do I need to change the scale of the legend line to make them look dashed?
Are they on the same layer as the existing contours?
They are.
I don't know why it would do that then. I will admit one of the things I do is I cheat. I grab an existing contour if I can. I pull it over there into the legend. I copy it, I'm sorry, and then I trim it.
Okay.
I'm not saying it'll work, but it's worth a try.
And then a couple examples ago, you did the like 32, 34, and then like 33 example. When it pushed out to 32, the back of the yard got much steeper. Would people sometimes put a like garden back there, like an elevated garden, if that was the contour route they went with?
Sure, they might even put a retaining wall in order to create more flat space. Again, more complicated than we want to do for this project right now. You guys haven't had any lessons on retaining walls. That comes up later in the semester. Or they could put a terrace, and you have done that if you want to, There's no need for it, but you certainly can if you wish.
All right.
All righty.
That's it. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. By the way, I think I have 2 drawings that are not missing. It's just that because Canvas alphabetizes by first name, they didn't come up where I should have, and I will get back to them. They would both be Zana and Zanji. if I'm even close to pronouncing. In other words, I'll just pull this over real quick to make you aware. These two students, the drawings did not download for me, but I will get them in just a minute and we will be sure to go over them. Any chance you are both here?
Nope.
Nope.
Yeah, they both are not here.
Okay. I think we are down to Maya. Mia, how do you want me to, how do you say it?
Yeah, I'm here. It's Maya.
Maya, okay. Maya, let's see. Should the base of the driveway have two different spot elevations? I bet you know the answer to that by now.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of them, like a lot of my questions have been answered.
That's why we do this group stuff. How do I find these? I bet you know the answer to that too. Do we need to label the side slopes? That's what, yeah. Do we need side slope labels? Yes, you do. In other words, you will need these slopes labeled. Now you're starting to do the offset thing, and I respect and understand that, but I want to encourage you to start by doing swales. And this one is too far down and this one's too far down. You quite honestly, we'll just take all these out. You probably don't need to go any further than that. You with me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the reason I put them that far down is because I was like struggling to get like the right percentage for like the center lines.
So,
but yeah, it doesn't look right.
did you see us push contours earlier?
Yeah.
Okay, so we can try that on this one as well. It might be useful for you to understand. If you've got a 34 FFE, then you know that that's the 134 is going to be coming across here. I can also tell you that this spacing is looking a little tight, but that's life. So if that 134 comes up this direction and then connects in, it can then come around. I'm trying to find it on this side. There it is. So it might be useful to go ahead and play that out real quick. Thank you for the text. Yes, there was an earlier email about that. Anyway, let me try to focus on this. So that was the 34 contour, which means the 33 could come up and around. And you're going to see where we're going to have issues here in a minute. The 32 is coming around. Okay, so we're starting to see a swale coming back this direction. And we're starting to see a swale coming down this direction. The 31, which I'm trying to find, is going to be coming around. And I don't know where it goes wherever the 31 is. The 30 and now you're starting to see where I'm getting into trouble. Right there. You see the trouble that I'm having?
Yeah.
I'm running out of room. So we go undo, 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 undo. And we say, well, what if instead of going to 34, we went down to 33 or lower? In fact, I'm going to try lower than that. In fact, I'm going to ignore that right now. And I'm just going to play with the contours. I'm going to take this 32. I'm going to bring it up, down, around, around, up. Make sure I can connect it in. Where is it? Back there. Starting to swale this way and that way. The 31. The 30. Wow. Let's pretend we actually did a fan on that driveway. Now, life is looking easier. But that means this 33 has to come up, and maybe that 34 has to come up, and maybe that 35 has to come up. You see what I'm doing here, playing with
Yeah.
these contours? So
That makes sense.
this might help you look at different ways that you can raise and lower the finished floor of the house to make your life easier. And eventually, I'm going to be asking you guys to do this anyway. We're going to be doing a bunch of it next semester. And so you're going to need to know a few things like, okay, this slope right here, how steep is that slope allowed to be? And if you guys remember in the slope parameters, we said that the side slope, if we want to call that a side slope, is a maximum of 4 to 1 or 25%. 4 to 1, which is 25%, means that the contours can be no closer than 4 feet from one another. And the nice thing is I can go through and make some measurements and determine if that's 4 feet. In fact, I can honestly just look at it and figure out, is that 4 feet or not? But instead, I'm going to pull up a measuring tool, and I'm just going to zoom in here, and I'm going to take a measurement across there, and that one's about 6 feet. And I'm going to do it again, and here I'm over 4 feet. You see the numbers coming up? Stuart to students, do you guys see the numbers coming up?
Yeah, I see that.
Thank you. Okay, so I just want to point that out, that if you're going to start pushing contours, you need to be aware of some of those things. And likewise, we can play it over here. What is the distance between these two? That's, we're going to say that's about 40 feet. Okay. If that's 40 feet, we know that if it was 50 feet, that would be a 2% slope. We know that because of the slope triangles that we looked at previously, or we just know it because we've been doing this so long. So if that's 2%, we know that this is going to be greater than 2% at 40, so we're going to be fine. Likewise, we play the same game on the other side, measuring tool, and here we're down beyond, and we probably want to come up around 50 feet. So, we'll put that in there, and then that means that we come back and we say, all right, that means that this contour where we were just pushing contours actually needs to come up a little further. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, so I just want you to see those ideas. Doesn't matter that the curve to the second LPS.
Yeah, I already have to change that one, so
you
you can disregard that.
How do you deal with the slope of the sidewalk? You treat it just like the driveway. Whatever the spot elevations are, so you will, lay your driveway out, and then you're going to come back in and put spots in here. So, here's one spot. It's in the wrong location, but that's because I'm typing and it goes where it wants. So we're going to have a spot right there. We're going to have one right here. We're going to have one there and there and here and here. And at first you're thinking, oh my God, that is so many spots. I hate this class. But a couple of things I want to point out to you before you get totally messed up with it. First off, those two spot elevations up here are going to be the same. And these two spot elevations here are going to be the same. And these two spot elevations here are going to be the same. And these two spot elevations here are going to be the same. And so what you'll have to do is you'll have to come off the house, figure out that one, figure out this one. Frankly, you can come off the house here as well and do the same thing. So those aren't nearly as bad as you think when you first look at it. Okay, they're as bad as you think, but still, it's doable. This spot elevation here is fine, except that I would suggest that instead you take two of them and one of them would go there and another one would go here, and then you simply have a line that goes to each of them so that the folks that are looking at the drawing understand what you're trying to say. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okie dokie.
I have a question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just for the spot elevations, there are so many right next to each other. Do I have to give a number for each and every one? And do they have to be as big as like the other numbers that are surrounding them?
Okay, so all spot elevation text must be the same size. These are a little large in this case, to be quite truthful. And although you do have to have spots for everything, it's not unusual to have, you know, spot, whatever. And the text is too large, but you're going to forgive me on that one. And then this, we'll put it down here, and then we'll grab the arrow and we'll put it there. And we'll actually try to make this a little simpler. And then we're going to have a little line between the two of them, and it's not going to draw there, so I'm going to draw it out here and then move it where I want it to connect those two. So the fact is I can label those two spot elevations. That arrow is really, that connection line is really poorly done. And I know that you guys are recording this, which means I darn well better make it more correct. So there we have labeled that spot with that one set of numbers right here. And then simply had a label that runs over to it and an arrow that connects the two of them together. That's going to make your life easier because you can do that for this one, for this one, for these two, and for these two. So learning to use leader lines and stack these things together is going to be very helpful graphically. It's going to be frustrating, but it's going to be a skill you're going to have to develop anyway. Did that almost answer your question?
Yes, it did answer. Thank you.
Probably wasn't the answer you wanted, but that's life. Any other questions on this one?
No, you answered all my questions, so I think I'm good.
I have one more question.
Okay.
So does the contour kind of just goes like sort of through the sidewalk and into the driveway, and then whatever spot elevations those other 8 end up, then you kind of just calculate that?
If that is where the contour goes, and remember, I'm pushing contours, so I'm just playing. And the reason I'm pushing contours is I need an overall picture of what's happening. Then once I have my overall picture, I'm going to go back and check the slopes to make sure it actually works. I will readjust my contours accordingly. And once I have those contours tied down, I can then use those as spot elevations to determine the rest of the spot elevations. That's one process I can go through. The other process is I have the contours there and I use them as a guide, but I use them in order to figure out what the slopes would be approximately. Then I would actually go and calculate the slopes and calculate the detail elevations for the contours. But to answer your question directly, yes, you could have a spot elevation on this side of the sidewalk and on that side of the sidewalk, and you certainly could have a contour running between those two spot elevations.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Oh, that's fun. You guys are already answering each other's questions. I love it. Sorry, I'm looking at the text. It comes up on another screen and I look over there and they've already answered the question. Cool. All right. We have one more, and then I go looking to see what is missing. So, Becky, how do I pronounce this name? Someone help me.
I go by Rika.
Okay. Sorry, I'm laughing because in case you ever want to know, I go by Pato, and you can call me Pato if you want. And so I'm typing in Rika on my list as if I will remember. And yeah, you can call me Pato if you want. Anyone know what Pato means?
No.
Nope.
No? It's Spanish, you can look it up. Okay, so question 1, I wonder why my center line isn't showing the line type. That's an AutoCAD question. I'll let you take that over there. My guess is that the line type scale for that layer is not set up correctly, but that is something my guess. And see someone over here is chatting at me. Duck, Judy, you're right. My nickname is Pato, it's Duck. And then make sure it's plotted. Make sure it's plotted. CBT, well, lots of answers coming in here. So, can my contour on my driveway be close to the property line? Absolutely. And I think we actually went over this, so it's probably not a new surprise to you. This contour line is going to shoot across there. Ooh, it will not be curved, though. It will be a straight line. And exactly the angle of which I don't know what it's going to be yet. I will also suggest to you that the swale line up here doesn't need to turn a corner. So in other words, if you've got HP up here somewhere, come here, mouse. I'm trying to get my commands back. I'm going to try a different pin, see if it will work for me. That could probably just come down there. It does not need to turn that corner. And this one can probably just come down here. It probably does not need to go down that far. It might, but I don't think it's going to be necessary for you. One of the places that folks have trouble with this is they forget about the slope going this direction. In the back, and they have to make sure that that is at least a 2%. Also, we told you to put a door in the back of the garage. I know that nobody's on that yet, but you know, somewhere back here, you're going to have a back door. And you go ahead. I like the music. And you can determine where that back door is. What other questions do we have on this one?
Can we talk more about the back door thing? Are we supposed to have the spot elevations and stuff?
Yep. So if we have a back door,
It says in the brief that we have to have a back door.
I believe it does. I'll go bring it up in just a second on the other screen. And so I cannot get this thing to draw. So having a back door somewhere, and I'm going over to my other screen to look at the brief. Yes, the rear of the garage. So both the front door of the house and the door to the rear of the garage, which you have to add, may either have no step or have a 6-inch step. So if we go back to the problem statement, let me bring that up. That's showing up on your screen now? Hello, hello.
Yes.
Okay.
There.
And also you'll see the note here about the It's an elevated deck for reference and only, doesn't require any grading. Yeah, reading this thing is not fun. I'm fully aware. I get that, guys. So yes, you have to put a back door in there someplace, which of course means you would have to have, a spot elevation, at that back door, so that we know that the land on the outside is lower than the land on the inside. And in this case, we have the spot down here and the spot up there. Because it's a door, we actually go and put a spot elevation. And then the question is, how do we make sure that water drains away? So I would advise that you actually add an additional spot elevation out here somewhere. And the reason is that if we have a spot elevation located out there, we can be assured that we have water draining out of that corner. So it's perfectly fine to have these three at the same elevation. And if we've got an elevation here of, the HPS of 133, we probably want to put something out here that's a 133.25 or lower, could be a 1.5. And that way we're absolutely sure that water will drain away from the building.
How would you get that 133.15? Like the best way to get it?
I just made it up, and you can too. The other option is that you can do a calculation. So if you've got the spot elevation out here for your HPS, you can then calculate, let's get rid of that guy. You can then calculate the slope there. And because I just simply don't trust folks when they're building my stuff, I would go out and add another spot elevation. I'd probably add it, somewhere, in here to make sure that that drains away. What I do not want, for example, is I do not want water draining along the building here or along the building here. And I want to make sure that the water is draining on the red arrow.
When should we worry about the door? After we finish our swale and everything?
Anytime you want. It's not going to be hard. You may as well stick it in now, but you can certainly do it later. This back corner, getting this area to drain is something everyone's going to have to address. Oh, and by the way, these spots go away. Why do they go away? Because as we said in the problem statement, the elevation for the deck is reference only and does not require any grading.
Just to go over the door thing again. So how am I supposed to calculate the actual door elevation?
You can set the door elevation the same as those two spots as long as it's lower than the FFE of the garage.
I just need one spot elevation for it?
Yep, you can do one spot elevation for it.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure. Okay, that got me through our list, except that I'm concerned that we have missed one student, and I'm going to go back and look for that one right now to make sure that we're getting everyone covered.
Can you take a break? Can we take a break after?
I don't care. You can take a break now. You've gotten your review. You're not required to stay here.
Okay.
It's totally up to you. I'm sure the moment you leave, I will think of something very important to say. And I'm being facetious, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Let's see. I'm just checking all the submitted drawings. Oh, those two are missing. So I've actually covered everyone. So yeah, now is a good time to take a break. You guys have any questions?
When we get back, can we just have like an open discussion if we have like any other questions regarding this
Oh,
college
absolutely.
project?
Absolutely. I'm not going anywhere, so we can do that anytime you want. Let's see. Ooh, I have an email with Rylene's. Rylene, you still here?
Yeah, I don't know if we have to go over that. I put a lot of questions
That's all right.
that are very specific.
Would you rather us not go over it? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Actually, yeah, we can go over it. Why not?
Okay. Well, we got it up on the screen. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of questions.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's fine. What there's a specific way you want spot elevations to be labeled? Yeah, I do. Are the plus supposed to be exactly on the spot elevation? So let's talk about that. Let's zoom in on this puppy right here. And the plus needs to be, on the ground for the surface that we're talking about. So that means that that plus mark, and mine is a little large, and you'll forgive me for that, that has to be not on but right here. So that's where it goes. And again, mine is larger than it needs to be because that's what AutoCAD gives me as an option. If I zoom way in, I can probably draw maybe. Wow. Let's see if I can make that small enough. I'm just wasting my time and your time doing this because the plus that you have works just fine. And so I'm just going to get rid of those things. Go away.
Oh yeah, I think I got that part.
Yeah.
Oh, what about like the high point and stuff? Like, am I supposed to draw it in, or can I kind of just put a plus? Like, if I didn't make that cut in the line, can I just put the plus like on the outside of
You
it?
do it the exact same way as we did before. And that means that there will be a break in the line. So there will be a break. In other words, your text is going to, fit about there, and there will be a break in that contour line. Is that what your question was?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And then the it's supposed to be straight, or all the you said before and something like
They
all the
should
numbers.
all be the same orientation to the page. So every one of these spot elevations should be the same orientation to the page. Now, I think it reads best when they are horizontal to the bottom of the page. And it also reads incredibly nicely when only the spot elevations are horizontal to the bottom of the page. And the other things like the contour labels and the slope labels are not horizontal to the bottom of the page. Now, in your case, right now, you have them at an angle like this. And that's acceptable too, as long as they're all the same angle. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Why is that window open? So let's go back up. What spot elevations are important to label? All of them. Great question. All of them. All corners, all changes of slope, all changes of material. Where is the front entrance of the garage and the rear door? Okay, the front entrance is where the driveway is. So the front entrance is going to be this area here, and the back door is going to be here somewhere.
Are we supposed to draw a door on both sides or just the back?
Nope, just add the man door and back. Do you have to label FFE for the porch or the wooden deck? Not for the wooden deck, and you certainly can for the porch, or you can do it with spot elevations. Your choice, and we are good with it either way. Does a center line have to be at an even distance from all parts of the building? Absolutely not. And I assume you talk about the center line of the swale. It does not have to be the same distance from the building. More than likely, it's going to get further away from the building the further you go downhill. So in other words, the center line of the swale will not, why is my pen not working? Will not go like that. Instead, it will more than likely be closer here and then move out further away from the building as it goes downhill. I'm grabbing a different pen because I don't like that one right now. How can you go over how to do the driveway? I don't know how to make it slope to connect to the road. Okay, so the fact is that the elevation here and the elevation here will be different elevations. You're going to have to determine what those elevations are. You've got an elevation here, here, and if I scroll down, you will have one here. So that means you can figure out the slope going this way. And then of course you can figure out the distance to this spot, which means you can then calculate that spot. You can do the same thing for this spot. Those two spots will not be the same elevation. This one will be lower in elevation than the other one. What that means then is that the contours as they come across there, this contour is going to hit here and it's going to take off probably in that direction. At what angle, I don't know, but the contours that then follow after that are more than likely going to be a fan pattern because you've got your 2% up here, but this is actually going to have one slope on one side of the driveway and a different slope on the other side of the driveway. You have a choice when it comes to labeling that. You can label both slopes if you want, or you can simply label one of those slopes, just put one down the middle, and then say that is the max. So in other words, it's not that this slope is the max. What I'm trying to explain is that your notation could be simply an arrow going down, and then you give your slope as you wish, and then you simply add the word or the abbreviation max afterwards.
Why is there two slopes here?
Okay, let me finish on the max.
Sorry.
That max would be whichever is steeper, and that would be this side over here. So now your question was, why are there two slopes here? Because this elevation and this elevation are not going to be the same. So her numbers here are not correct for the elevations. This one will be lower. It's going to be somewhere in the 129s. So my guess around there is it's going to be about 129.7-ish. This one over here looks like it's going to be 130.3-ish. So that means we have different elevations here. So if we go down to this one and we'll say, all right, that one's going to be, 130.3-ish. And the one up here is going to be 129 point, what did I say, 7-ish. That means that those elevations are clearly not the same. Therefore, because these elevations here at the top, or not even really at the top, at where she's gone with her percentages, give me my thing. Those are the same, but these are different. This one is lower, which means this slope on this side of the driveway is going to be steeper than the slope on this side of the driveway. Does that make sense? And
Yes.
that's the reason we're going to have more than likely some sort of a fan pattern going across there. How do we figure, let's see, can you go over the driveway? Yep, just did. How do you figure out how far the contours are going to be from the house? At first, I did a center line, and then after I eyed the contours that connected to the center line, but I lost my spacing when I did that. Okay, so the first thing you're going to be doing is you're going to be putting in the center line of your swale. Let me get all this stuff out of here. And to do that, you're going to, as you already have started, you're going to have a line going around here, and you're going to have a line going around here. You're then going to figure out the LPS for this elevation, and you've got your HPS, and you're going to space those contours out at whatever that spacing needs to be. Now, your question is about how far away do the contours have to be from the house? And the contours, it's not a distance that the contours have to be, it's a distance related to the slope away from the house. So if we look at the, my other computer does not want to let me scroll up for some reason. Wow, that is crazy. So for the slope parameters, okay, it's not letting me bring it up on that computer, so I'll bring it up on this one. Trying to anyway, let's try that again. So that's the interim. I don't want the interim. I want the final. So here you see the slope parameters. We have the same as before, 5% for the first 10 feet away from the building. You with me on that?
Yes.
Okay. That does not determine the contour location. That determines what the spot elevations are 10 feet away from the building. So if we went back to your building here, I somehow changed drawings. There we go. So if we go back to your building, that means there's a distance away from the building that we only want to have a maximum of 5%. So what I tend to do is I tend to, sketch in these contours to begin with, and then I have to go back and check and make sure that I have that 5% maximum slope away from the building. So I wouldn't try to offset the contours around it. I would simply try to put spot elevation. So for example, if we zoom in right here, and I'm presuming that you're actually talking about, the spot elevation being, out here, and then 10 feet away, if I want to go 10 feet away, I will, measure, and I'm going to measure about 10 feet away. Pretty good, close enough, agreed. If I'm a 5% slope, that's the maximum slope. If I'm a 5% slope, that would be a drop of 0.5. And I know that sometimes you guys have trouble remembering that. And we can see if I can bring up the slope triangles for you again. I'm not exactly sure where those are right now. I'm looking on another drive, and I know we had them in the lecture, for example, and that would be an easy place to look them up. I'm trying to find a, well, we'll just use this one for common slopes. So here you see some common slope percentages coming up. That is coming up on your screen, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, for 4%, we know that we need to be at least 25 feet apart for the contours. The other thing, and I'm trying to find a simple example. I have way too much stuff on my screen here. It could be that the fastest way to simply go to the lectures, because that is where all of this stuff is. So let me go back to the lecture. Bring that down. Go to modules. And if you haven't looked at the lecture here, and this is just the PDF slides. So we're going to download that real quick if we can. Not a very fast download, but it will. It will have all of this information for you. And I know this is a roundabout way of answering your question, but I think it's an important thing for you guys to understand. And of course, I downloaded the wrong one. My apologies, guys. All right, I'll close that. Go back. This is the one I want. I don't want the video. I want the PDF. It's going to take it a little bit of time to download. Not as long as I thought. There we go. Okay, so there are my slope triangles. So what does that tell me? At 5%, I'm assuming slope triangles are up on your screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
At 5%, if I go horizontally 10 feet, that means I'm going to go up or down half a foot. At 2%, if I go horizontally 10 feet, I'm going to go up or down 0.2. So we went through all of that so that we could go back now and look at this. So I was talking about going out from the building 10 feet. And so if I go down 0.5, that would represent a 5% slope. If I wanted to go down at a 2% slope, then I would go down 0.2. So figuring out what those spot elevations would need to be there as a guide is really the first step for figuring out how far away the contours need to be from the building. Again, you can go anywhere between 2 and 5. It's totally up to you. And that is more of the refinement stage. First, you need a concept that's going to work. And again, when it comes to that concept idea, I would encourage you to go back and look at this lecture because it's going to explain to you, how to do this concept. And so take a chance to go through it. I know you'd rather not, but it is going to make it easier for you. Let me go back to your questions. At first I did the center line and then, okay, so I think we answered that one. It wasn't a simple answer, would you agree?
Yeah, I think I got it though. I kind of found my center line center line or swale line first.
Yep.
And then I did my contour. So I have to find my contours first and then add the swale line after.
No. You can do it either way. You can do the swale first and then the contours, or you can do the contours and then the swale. Remember, you're working on a concept right now. I would think that you are probably too close in this area right now. But again, just work out that swale and then start dragging the contours around and then pushing them out on these corners as you need to make sure that you are sufficiently have the slope down to 5% or less. What do you think of the spot elevations? Does it make sense? Well, they're drawn wrong. They need to be drawn on the outside of the building. This, let's see, we've got, that's a 33. And so you're saying you're a half a foot below here, that's fine. And you're saying you're a half a foot below there. Remember, you can go more than a half a foot if you wish. You will want to add spot elevations on the outside of the porch as well. So please don't forget those. And you sat through and you know we got a whole bunch we have to put on this walkway, correct?
Yes.
That 1%, I would drop that for now because more than likely it's going to be 2%. It's going to be whatever it is for the driveway.
Okay.
My swale center line does not seem to be showing its dashes. Is that okay? No, it's not okay. You're going to have to go back and adjust the line type scale so that it does. Is this a good spot for the LPS or should it be lower? Well, I'll tell you personally, I think the good spot for the LPS would be further away from the building, like, oh, come on, just draw for me. Sometimes my computer loves me and sometimes it hates me. Did I pick up the wrong pin? That would probably be sufficient for your LPS over there. This one you can, yeah, probably pretty close to where it is. I actually might try to get a little up, a little further away from the building if I could. That's confusing for you. Make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
How do I find out how far these contours should be? I saw the lecture video that goes through this, but I don't fully understand. I think we just went over that.
Yeah, I think I'm good on that part too.
Yeah. Do the contours have to be an offset from the building? No. Had trouble measuring my H distance because my lines are curved. How do you measure curved lines? You draw the curved line in AutoCAD. I don't have AutoCAD up right now, but I certainly could, work on bringing it up. And once you have the curved line in AutoCAD, you simply do an LI or you do a properties on the center line that is curved, and it will give you the length. And I'm going to move AutoCAD off of here for now if I can. Which maybe that wasn't a good idea bringing it up right now because AutoCAD is choking as it's opening. So I'm going to come back to AutoCAD later because I think you understand the explanation I just gave. My side slopes are 2.5% and 1.25. Are those good? The 1.25 is a little shy. See, I knew AutoCAD wouldn't be happy. So I would try to get it up to 2%. Can I write my porch elevations like this? Yeah, you can. I think there are simpler ways to do it, and I think we went over that earlier, correct?
Yes, yeah, that's good.
Should the porch slope to get the water off? How would I do that? In all honesty, at this point, you guys don't have to worry about the slope on the porch. When you build them out of concrete. Normally, the architect is responsible for making sure it has a 1% slope on it. This is a normal thing that we always get conflicts in our mind about because we're not quite sure who does it, and because it's on the drawing, everyone wants to know, do I need to grade the porch? The answer is no, you do not need to grade the porch at all, to be truthful. You may put a finished floor on it, and it's the contractor's responsibility to make sure the water drains off. These are all really good questions, by the way. How would you do the path or walkway? I don't know how to measure it. I don't know how to come up with good spot elevations. Can you go over more examples of how to do it on a drawing like this? Sure. I think we actually started that process previously. Did you see what we were doing there?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty good for that. I was just wondering if I should make it like more like the driveway and add lines in between, but I know that the contour can go kind of like straight through it now.
So you're basically going to come up with a spot elevation that, come here, computer. You're going to put a spot there and a spot there. Here, here. These two will be the same, and they're going to be based upon the slope of the driveway. These two are going to be the same. You're going to have one here and here. And frankly, they're probably going to be based upon the slope of the driveway as well, because you can always have a 6-inch step right there to get in from the from the walkway up to the porch. You don't have to have it, but you certainly can. I think for this project, it's easier to do it that way. So I probably would. Okay, we just did that one. Is that spot elevation good for the elevation of the driveway? Nope. You're going to have to calculate those. And I think we already said this one's going to be around 29.7-ish, and this one's going to be about 30.3-ish. And you are going to have to calculate those. The way you're going to calculate those is that you know the elevation here, you know the elevation here, you know the elevation here. You can figure out the distance between those 2 points to get the slope. You're then going to use that slope from this point here to go down and calculate that elevation. And then you will continue that process going down to calculate this elevation. You with me?
Yeah, that all makes sense. I think I'm good with all driveway questions.
Yeah, I think you are, but you know, repeating things doesn't hurt. How is this contour connected to the driveway? Is this correct? Not yet, because that contour, so for example, if we go in here, this one's going to shoot across, as you know, and we haven't actually figured these out yet based upon those 2 different slopes. Luckily, we've talked about that and picked up on it, so I'm sure that you will be able to cover that soon. Is the 133 FFE reasonable? Sure. 132 would also be reasonable. 134 would also be reasonable. There are joys and sorrows for all of those. Is the FF 132.6, I assume that's for the garage, reasonable? You know, I might make that a 0.5 instead of a 0.6. So it's just an even 6-inch drop. Because obviously 0.5 is equal to 6 inches. It looks like.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
No, I have a question about units, because if we're doing everything in feet, why are we talking inches now? It confuses us a bit, don't you think?
It is confusing, especially if if inches were not the way you started out in life. And when I started doing this, I learned it in metric. So I got to tell you, yes, it is confusing. Because 0.5 feet is the same as 6 inches. Fact is that the profession will use both terms interchangeably. It's kind of like when we get to doing stormwater calculations next semester, turf, grass, and pasture all mean the same thing, yet all of the charts use different terms. And so we have to get familiar with those different terms so that we can do the work. It's really annoying. I guarantee it's annoying. It's almost as, yeah, I get it. It looks like the water goes into my driveway. Should I avoid that? Actually, the water's not going into your driveway at all, so you don't have a problem there. And yes, you do want to avoid water going into your driveway. We will have projects later on where you'll actually have to have a swale going down the middle of your parking lot. And we'll talk about that as we move along. Where do I make water go? That is an excellent question. You always, always, always try to make the water go wherever it did naturally before anything was being built. You cannot always do that, but you always want to try to emulate the system as best as you can. Is it okay for water to run down my driveway? It is in the case of this project. Be aware, in many jurisdictions, in many different towns, there we go, another example. I'm using two different words for the same thing, jurisdiction and town. It is illegal to have water run from your driveway onto the street. We are not addressing that right now. You guys have enough stuff to deal with. So yes, it's okay to have water run down your driveway. And in this case, it's actually running down the driveway and into the curb and gutter system. Wow, did we get all these? I think we got them all.
Yeah, I think it's all good. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Okay, any open questions you guys want to deal with?
Yeah, actually, I do. I'm not a part of the day's reviews, so I don't want to take up anyone's time, but
We got
yeah.
time.
Okay. So I think it's my 33 contour when I'm drawing on the swale. Like I calculated the centerline slopes for both of them, and it makes sense. But the way that the 33 contour curves, it like curves like back on itself, and so it's not right.
Would you like to share a screen with us?
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Now to do that, I've got to make sure that
Yeah.
I'm allowed to do this.
It says yeah. You need to, or you get to stop sharing. I think your screen.
Yeah, I know, and unfortunately, I need to quit a few things at the same time. So hang on just a minute. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing, and you can go ahead and share. Wow, we really don't need that video up.
Sorry, I just need to change some settings real quick.
Oh, trust me, I understand. Anyone else have any questions while we're changing settings?
I actually do, but it's very minor. I think you can answer it like this, but I just noticed that when you're taking the contour and running it over the drive walk, that you are, I guess, ignoring the fact that there's a curb, and so the line for the curb is changing.
So are you talking about the curb down by the road?
Yes.
Okay, so that curb is broken. So we are going to eliminate the curb where the driveway is going in. So you can imagine that there was a curb there and we've gone in with a bulldozer and ripped that curb out so that the driveway can then connect in.
Okay.
So
all right.
When Tyler's done sharing, we can go over that again. So Tyler, what is your question?
Okay, sorry, I muted myself. So can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay, so this would be my 33, but
okay,
like it it doesn't make sense because it would have to like, so this wouldn't make sense because it would curve down here, but then this like you would think it would curve back on itself like that, but it comes like that, which doesn't really. I don't think that makes sense.
Okay,
I'm
so
not sure if it's.
so you're 33, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use your numbers real quick, and I'm going to copy them over so that we can talk about this. You've got a 135.21 elevation for your house, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that might be something we need to talk about.
Yeah.
That might be high, and that is one of the issues. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to stop sharing, and I'm going to bring mine back up now and show you why that might be a little concerning. So and this is not exactly the same as yours. You know, it's a mirror image of something, but I assume that you're seeing a plan with a 135.21 finished floor elevation. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah.
Okay. So what that means, if that's a 135 and we're going away from the building to get a high point of swale, and then we're going to be running a swale around this way and around that way. That means if we go downhill from that building, let's start by dropping 6 inches, half a foot, and that's going to get us to an elevation down here of 130.21. And let me move that so we can actually see it. That would be helpful. Okay, so that gets us down to that elevation. And if we are now going out to the swale line, we're going to draw just a line here that says, all right, we're going to head out this direction. That distance doesn't matter a whole lot, but we could drop again. I'm sorry, I got you the wrong number there. I apologize about that. That means if I drop down, this elevation out here is going to be just below probably 135, or I could just call it 135 if I wanted to. So if it's just below 135, I'm just going to take a distance on that. 2, and we're going to come from here, and I'm got to change my ratios. I apologize for that. So I've got a distance of about 25 feet. Okay, 25 feet. And again, we can go back to these sort of things and say, all right, 25 feet at 5% would be about here. 25 feet at 2% would be around here. You with me? You see what I'm saying? And I'm going to go 2%, and I'm going to go over to around 25 feet. That means that vertically, that's where it's going to be. So that's going to be a drop of 0.5. Can you see how I'm doing that in my head, Tyler? Mm-hmm. Okay. So now let's go back over to this. So if that's a drop of 0.5, we're just going to get rid of that because it's in the way. What is our elevation going to be out here? Our elevation out here is going to be 134.81. Does that anyone want to check my math on that, please? No, nobody wants to.
Is it a drop of 0.5, you said?
Drop of 0.5. You're right. I'm off. That should be a 7.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so that means that somewhere down here is where the 34 is going to fall. And I've got multiple pins. Let's get that out of there. So somewhere down there is where the 34 is going to fall, which means this 34 contour now is going to come up, it's going to turn, it's going to come around, it's going to come back, it's going to come up this way, and then it's going to reconnect. Do you see how I did that? Because you guys have seen the swale contour a couple of times. And this is what's going to happen. Because of that elevation there being so high, we're going to run out of room down here.
Right, okay.
35 is really easy, but now the 33 is going to come around. The 32 is going to come around. Now we got to get this puppy around. Now we got to get this one here that's hidden around. And you can see I'm running into trouble. Eek, eek, can't quite get there really. And down here. So what does that tell us? That tells us that our finished floor elevation is probably too high here. And that's why we're having trouble fitting these contours around the building.
Okay.
So what I would advise is that you drop that elevation by, let's start, drop it a foot, see if it works. Drop it 2 feet, see if it works. Now, I don't want to have to do a whole lot of math here, so I'm going to drop it in even increments. So let's go ahead and grab that. And, drop by, let's say drop by 2 feet first. And then we'll drop this one by 2 feet. And then we'll drop this one by 2 feet. Now, that means that the next contour that's going to come across here is going to be like a 31 contour. That 31 contour, it's down in here somewhere, isn't it? Let's see, actually we have these, are these mislabeled? 35, no. Yep, this is a 31 down here. So now we're talking about bringing the 31 up. Not really thrilled about that. So we're going to undo that again and say, all right, well, let's drop by just 1 foot. And so we're going to make that a 34. We're going to make this a 34. And we're going to make this a 33. That means the 32 is going to come up. That would be really helpful if I actually had a pin. That means my 33 has to push up. My 34 has to push up. My 35 has to push up. But look how easy this is going this way. And now I've got, although I cheated on that distance there, I've got more room to work around. So my point is, you need to be willing to play with that elevation of the building in order to get this to work. And you absolutely do not want to be working out all the detail while you're doing a concept. So if you will bring your AutoCAD back up for us. and this is true with so many students. There's this great desire because you're working in AutoCAD to work things in detail because you have like unlimited detail available to you in AutoCAD. And I hope you can see, you might notice that every example that I've been giving you, I have been drawing in an Adobe file. I'm just drawing in Acrobat. And I'm not working out detail yet. I'm going to work out my concept in Acrobat or on paper. And then when I have a concept that works, I'm going to transfer it over and work out the detail in AutoCAD. The problem is there's no reason you cannot do a concept in AutoCAD, but AutoCAD is so tempting to make us work in detail. Does that make sense? And I'm trying to get you guys to go away from that. So I would go back right now and don't do a whole lot of work here, but I want you to delete the driveway percentage, the number 10 and the number 2. Just take
Okay,
them
because
out.
that's how I was. Because I had been playing with this
Yep.
FFE for a while.
Yep.
I was trying a lot. I tried 2, 5, and 10%. Each of them didn't work.
Right.
I was having the same issues.
Okay.
So I have been playing with it, and I just haven't been able to
Sure.
get this issue figured out. Centerline slips have worked, but
Yeah. So one of the things I would do is I would just take the slopes off the driveway because you know already that your driveway will work whether you're at 135 or all the way down to 132.
Yeah.
So now, because you know that, let's just drop that house. Let's drop it 1 foot.
Okay, hold on.
No problem. Just double click on it. It'll let you.
No, it's my computer. I have it. Okay. Whenever I share my screen while I have like CAD open, my whole computer kind of like the graphic acceleration kind of slows my computer down, and I thought I figured out how to disable that, but apparently not, because it makes my mouse click in like different locations
So
than when I'm
anyway,
running
you
what I
understand
want,
it.
but I'm trying to.
Right. So Tyler, you understand the concept. What I'm telling you is drop that elevation by a foot.
Okay.
Drop all the spot elevations around the building by a foot. Yep. There you go. Drop your high point by a foot.
Come on. Oh my God. Come on.
There you go. Now zoom out. And by the way, you can close that layers window. We don't need it open. It's just
Yeah,
taking
no,
space.
yeah, my computer's just might crash, honestly.
So basically what I'm going to ask you to do is to do the exact same process that I just showed you on Adobe. I want you to now go and try putting these contours in roughly, not calculated, just roughly.
Wait, so like, it's okay there, right? Okay.
So can you turn the layer, yeah, to get that off.
No, that's not good.
Close.
Yeah, this isn't.
Can't get that
No,
off.
it's like if I click on this X, it's gonna click like an inch away from it, so it's like gonna click something else.
Okay, let's not worry about it.
Yeah,
We'll worry about that later.
Sorry, I
Okay.
need to get this figured
So
out.
we've lowered the high point, and we've lowered that spot elevation. That's fine.
Yeah.
We have to remember, by the way, to go back and do the other spot elevations. So
Oh yeah, change them to like
yeah,
30. Yeah.
hold on. One of the things I want you to stop doing is stop working in this level of detail.
Yeah.
So only go to 1 decimal point for now, so that you can remember when you get there that you need to go back and calculate these in more detail. So my point
Oh,
now
okay.
is, if that is the 132.8 for the spot elevation, for your HPS, is that correct? Or did we
Right
change
here?
that one yet? Yeah, we changed that one.
So
So
132. Yeah.
no, we've already, it's good.
Okay.
So now that means the 132 contour is the one that's going to be coming up and circling around. And
So the ones closest. So like if these were the 32.
no, don't use those as calculation points yet. I need you to work conceptually first and not work in detailed math, because the detailed math is going to slow you down.
Yeah.
And it's going to frustrate you.
Yeah.
So again, I'm going to take control, or
Sure. Yeah.
to me. And I want to talk about a few things to try to help you out here.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to take it back.
Oh, okay. I thought you went like you were to take control of my.
No, I wasn't going to take control of your AutoCAD because it's going to make it too cumbersome.
Yeah. Probably.
So my point is that you came out and created a spot elevation out here that I'm going to say it was 132, and you had detail, but I'm not going to do detail. I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay. Yours was 132.7, wasn't it?
Yeah, but those were, well, wait.
So 132.7
elevations were, but
yeah. And I can always move that in a little closer if I want to. I'm going to put it around there, and I'm going to take this one, I'm going to put it around there. And so notice I haven't done the detail here. Instead, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in these swale lines. And so one swale line is just going to come right down there. And the other swale line is just going to come right down here. I'm not even sure how far they're going to go yet. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to play with that 132 contour. And so I'm taking that 132, I'm pulling it up, I'm coming around, I'm coming down this way, coming up this way, and coming up here again, and I'm going to go back and connect into the 132. So can you see how I've done that with the 132?
So why does the kind of center line that you drew on the, I guess, near the deck part, shouldn't it like wrap around the entire house to like?
No. So you're saying, shouldn't this thing come down? Shouldn't the swale come down that way?
Or yeah, like the center line at least. Yeah.
Right. No need to. Doesn't
Okay.
need to come down that far. So what I can do now with this, and I will agree, I haven't actually measured the slope to figure out what the slope of that swale is. I'm just eyeballing it. And so I'm going to come in with the next one. I'm going to turn. I'm going to go around. I'm not going to worry about that driveway yet because I really don't know what's going to happen. And I'm going to attach it into there. So you can see that these will work, and then this one obviously can do that, and that one can do this. We got enough room down here. Would you agree?
Yeah, it looks.
All right.
It looks like it. At least.
That means that this one's going to have to pull up, down, and attach. This one's going to have to pull up, back, and attach. And this one might have to pull up. So this is working with a high point of swale that's 132.7. I haven't done any detail math here. I don't want to do detail math if I can avoid it right now, because detail math, when it doesn't work, just frustrates me and I get angry. I want to create a safety net for myself that I can work with first. So that's exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so I can see that this will work with that elevation.
Okay. Well, so even if you were to like calculate it, you're like how like you just know just by doing that.
Well, let's suppose I don't know. Let's go in now and run a calculation. Yes, for example, we want to know what's the slope on this swale that I just put in.
Yeah.
You know, well, it says it's about 30 feet, 32 feet, you know. So I can run the calculation, you know, and figure out what that's going to be. I can also simply hop over to my triangles to take a look. Okay, we're talking 1 foot difference in elevation. And you'll notice on these triangles that I have over here, I've got these little red marks here. And those red marks are telling you how far apart 1 foot contours are.
Mhm.
So in a 5% slope, 1 foot contours are 20 feet apart. In a 2% slope, 1 foot contours are 50 feet apart. So as long as we are between 20 feet and 50 feet, we're going to have an acceptable slope. Because
Mhm.
that's the range that we can allow. We can actually go up to 10% if we want. So, you know, for 10%, if we wanted to go that steep, it could be, you know, 10 feet apart. But I'm going to go down here because I don't really want it that steep. I'm going to say this is my range I'm willing to live in. So anything between 20 feet and 50 feet is going to be within an allowable range that I'm comfortable with. And so I go back over here and my distance is 32. 32 is between 20 and 50.
Okay.
So I know that that's going to be fine. I don't even need to know exactly what the slope is at this point. I don't really care. I just want to know that I'm not going to have a problem. Now I go to the other side and I've got one going here. Well, that's about 37 feet, roughly speaking. Okay. I could even call it 40 if I wanted, but it's between 20 feet and 50 feet, which is what I said my standards were, between 20 feet and 50 feet apart. So yeah, I don't even know, to be truthful, what the detail is of that yet, but I can see conceptually that this is going to work, that I haven't violated any slopes or my center lines of my swales. Now, we couldn't teach you this method when you guys started because you didn't have enough knowledge to understand why it would or would not work. You needed to start by understanding what slope is. So that's why we did the slope calculations in one exercise. You need to understand how to draw contours in and, you know, how to calculate slopes for contours. That's why we did the terrace exercise. And we've worked our way up to this. But now we're to a point where doing the concept is going to save you pain, to be truthful. And saving you pain is something that we definitely want to do. Now, this concept is not final. I mean, we know that, you know, we're going to have a contour line running across here somewhere. You know, we're probably going to have another one running across here somewhere. When we do all those, I got to just, let's see if I can draw a line in here. Yeah, we're going to have another one, you know, running across, you know, there somewhere. And eventually we're probably going to have one running straight across. So we know we're going to have these contours going across here. And we're not that worried about it right now because we can run a calculation on this one. The length of this driveway, yeah, looks like it's about 40 feet. Okay. So we're going to say it's 40 feet for the purposes of doing our rough calculations. So what's the maximum slope we can have on this driveway? You know, we could go up to 8%. It'd be nice to keep it down to 5, to be truthful. And so we can now look at our elevations here. If this is, you know, 32 here, you know, we can go down to maybe, you know, 31 down to maybe 30. This elevation right down here is going to be about 31.5. And I'm just estimating based upon the contours that we have here. So I'm going to say that that is 130.5. And I'm adding the question marks because I know I need to. Okay, so that elevation is for right here. Does that make sense? You see how I got that? Okay. And if I left the elevation, if I left it at 132.7, that's fine. or I can make it 132. So let's suppose I just put an elevation in here, 132.0 and a couple of question marks. I've got a distance of 40 feet, and I've got a difference in elevation of, looks like 1.5 foot. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So now I run a quick calculation. 40 feet with 1.5 foot difference in elevation. Is that an acceptable slope? And you're just going to pull out your calculator and run that to see if that's an acceptable slope. I can tell you it will be. And if it's not, what do you do? Well, if it needs to be steeper, you could actually take this up a bit if you wanted and take it up to 7, because the slope, the elevation of the garage can be the same as the
house.
house. Well, actually, the house is above that because I actually pulled off of this number here.
Okay.
Okay. So in all honesty, I'm probably higher than that. Probably a 133.5 or so.
Okay. So I don't know if because I when I started, I used like when I was starting with from the driveway, I started at like I just said like 130, and that's how I started my calculations. Like doing like 130 plus 1.2, looking at the slope triangle for the
Okay.
2%. So 130, 1.2, and I did the same for 5 and 10.
Yep.
And like still, I don't know. I think I was getting
And the 5 is probably going to work best for you. The 10 is going to be up so high that you're going to have ridiculous amount of contour stacking up down here. The 2 is going to be so low that you're going to have a ridiculous amount of contours stacking up on the other side.
Okay.
So go for the 5 and see what happens. But my point is, you aren't going to know for sure until you basically, it's what I say, you need to close it. And let me try to explain for everyone's benefit what I mean by that. If we can just get all of this stuff out of here. By closing it, what I mean is that you're going to work your way up the driveway. I know the arrow's pointing down, that's okay. Then you're going to drop 1/2 foot if necessary, but it's not necessary. Run back to a high point, and then you're going to run that high point, that swale, down and around and see if you can get down to a low point of swale that matches up here. And that's actually a fairly quick calculation.
Yeah, I mean that's what I was doing. I mean, like I think what is, I'm not sure if we still use the slope triangle when we're doing from the corner elevation to the HPS.
Yeah.
If we're doing so if we started the garage at 5%.
Yeah.
Then.
So basically,
say if we went like, sorry.
Yeah, you're gonna have a number here. You're gonna have a number here. You're gonna have interim numbers, in the corner here, if you want. You'll have a number for the FFE.
Yeah.
And you're going to have an existing number down here. Those are all the numbers you're going to be working with. That's it. And so this one, down here, well, that one's fixed. You can't do a thing about that one. That one's going to stay right where it is.
This 130.
One is, yeah, or 130. I'm saying 130.5. I'm using the middle of the driveway.
Oh, okay.
Is my concept.
Okay.
So the first one here, that one up there is fixed, and this one here is fixed if we make that our LPS. So now we're really only dealing with these 3. And of those, these 2 are tied together pretty much. We know that outside the garage is going to be 6 inches above the garage. I'm sorry, below the garage. So the outside is 6 inches below the garage. So in all honesty, we can actually get rid of that one, to be truthful, if we wanted to, because we could just keep it in there, and all we're going to say is that, okay, that one's actually just the FFE minus 0.5.
Yeah.
And I don't know where that went. I tried to type it in there and it disappeared. So F, I'm not getting any typing there. Let's try this one. Okay, so FFE minus 0.5. That's what that elevation is going to be. And it's not going to change. It's always going to be the FFE minus 0.5. And if we had this at a 2% slope, then this point out here is going to
Okay, so we wouldn't, okay, so it's not 5%.
FE
So if we do 2% at like, say 20 feet, so
25 feet in this case,
at,
what I did.
oh. Okay, so then,
Because
oh yeah, so then we subtract, so if we said 20. So yeah, I guess that's my question. If we do, so yeah, if we're looking at the slope triangle and you do 25, would that be just 0.5 then?
You
It's in
got it.
between? Okay,
That's exactly what it is, 0.5.
okay,
And so I'm dropping 0.5 from the FFE to this point here. And then I'm dropping another 0.5 to the HPS, which means
thought-
the
okay, but
HPS is 1 foot below the FFE.
okay. I think my question was just about like, why are you using 2%, I think?
Because
Yeah,
it's easy.
okay,
Because it's a concept and it's easy.
okay. Well, well, shouldn't we use like, I think what I'm getting caught up is like the concepts, like if we're not trying to apply like, I guess similar or at least basic rules of what you're trying to look for in the actual um like project, like I think it's supposed to be like 5%, I think.
But Tyler,
First 10 feet.
you are applying those basic rules, because the program statement for the project said that you had to have between 5 and 2%, or 2 and 5% attendance. We don't want attendance, we want assignments. So if we go to the program statement, it tells you that your
maximum slope of
maximum slope of 5%.
Okay, so
And you
okay,
already
yeah,
know that the minimum is 2%.
right. Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out.
So I just went with 2%.
Yeah.
At 25 feet, because the math is super easy. It's a drop of 1/2 foot. So it's a 1/2 foot drop from the FFE to here, and another 1/2 foot drop to the HPS. And so that makes my math really fast now. And my distance of my swale over here, my distance for my swale is, about 50 feet. Huh. Now you're realizing how lazy I really am. Okay. If I've got 50 foot, then I can have a drop there going back to the slope triangles. That means anything along this 50-foot line. That's my 50-foot line. So that means, and I'm going to move it out of the way so I can see the numbers. And I'm going to get rid of that guy so I can see the numbers. That means I could have a drop at 50 feet. I could drop 1 foot at 2%, 2.5 feet at 5%, and up to 5 feet at 10%. You with me? So that's my range I could have for my swale. That's a pretty big range. So now if I go back to my project here, my elevation down here is pretty much already fixed. We know that one. If we're going to make that our low point of swale, that's going to be about a 131.5. Wow, that was interesting typing. Okay, with a couple of question marks. Okay, But that's 131.5, and that one's fixed. If this is 133.5, this is going to be 132.5, right?
Yeah, okay.
And if my, and then we'll just put that in, we'll put that in as the HPS right now so that we can remember that's what we're talking about here. If I can get my thing to show up.
Could you also like maybe draw what the other side's gonna look like of the swales?
I'm sorry, say the question again?
Could you also maybe draw what the other side of the swale will look like and like where that LPS will be?
Sure, I'll get to that in just a second, but first I'm going to just work on this side. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So if this is 133.5, I subtract 1 foot for it, and this is going to be 132.5. I'm not going to type it in, I'm just going to keep it in my memory right now. 132.5. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
132.5, the difference in elevation between 132.5 and 131.5 is 1 foot. We're talking about 50 feet, 1 foot. That means we're at about a 2% slope there.
Okay, so okay.
All right. Now I'm going to go to the other side, and I'm going to put a swale line over here too. So let's grab. Come here. Where is my? So let's see if I can actually do a swale line. I got one going here. Okay, you agreed with that. Now I'm going to put one over here. Now, when I'm doing my concept, how long do you think I'm going to make that swale?
I don't know, 50 again.
Yeah, you're darn right I am. Why? Because I'm lazy. Okay, and I do not want to do a lot of detail right now. I want to just come in and say, all right, we're going to go to about 50 feet there, roughly. There we go. Put it out there. 50 feet out there. What's the elevation down here? If I was to put my LPS down there, what's that elevation?
I can't see the. Is that 130? So it's one. Wait. Yeah, I think it's 130. Yeah.
Okay. Now, do you remember what we said the elevation was up here for the HPS? In case you've forgotten, I'm going to type it back in. Yeah. Okay. What's the difference in elevation between these two?
Okay, I see what you're saying. So
what's the difference in elevation between my HPS and my trial LPS?
About 2 or 1.5
feet. 132.5 minus 130.5, the difference is 2.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Okay. So we're 2 foot elevation change over 50 feet. Let's remember that. 2 foot elevation change over 50 feet. I know that that's going to be acceptable because I look over here and I've got a 2.5 over 50 feet. So I know that's going to be acceptable slope. I happen to actually know that it's going to be a 4% slope because 2 feet